Little girl tells officer, "My police dog can find your missing son." What happened next left everyone speechless when Officer Daniel Reed stepped out of the patrol car that cold November evening. He carried the kind of fear that only a parent can understand. His 9-year-old son, Liam, had vanished from the local park just hours earlier, leaving behind only a backpack and a few sets of footprints that disappeared into the woods. Search teams were combing the area, flashlights cutting through the thickening fog, but every passing minute felt heavier, colder, darker. Daniel was a trained officer, a man who had rescued others all his life, but that night he stood trembling, feeling helpless in a way he never imagined possible. The world felt as if it were closing in on him, stealing the breath from his chest, threatening to swallow every last bit of hope he had left. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the miracles that come from unexpected places, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so more people can experience stories like this. Daniel had spent his entire career depending on K9 units, but tonight, for the first time, he didn't have one by his side. And then, out of nowhere, he felt a gentle tug at the bottom of his jacket. When he looked down, he saw a small girl with a soft face, messy hair, and eyes full of something far stronger than fear, faith. Beside her stood a small police dog with a bright vest and alert posture. The girl looked no older than 7. Her clothes were dusty, her boots worn, and she seemed far too young to be out on a night like this. Yet she stood there with an unshakable calm that felt almost unreal in the midst of the chaos. She lifted her hand as if offering a promise and told him that her dog could find his missing son. For a moment, Daniel felt torn between desperation and disbelief. He had seen dozens of trained K9s at work, but something about this tiny dog seemed almost unlikely. It wasn't large or intimidating. It wasn't the type of dog that made officers whisper about accuracy rates or mission records. It was small, light-footed, with bright, intelligent eyes that never stopped moving. The girl explained in a soft, determined way that she and her dog had helped people find things before. Lost pets, injured hikers, even a missing elderly man the previous winter. And although her story sounded unbelievable, something in her gaze, steady and brave, broke through the wall of doubt wrapped around Daniel's heart. Every search team had failed so far. Every trail had gone cold. Every minute mattered, and so, with nothing left to lose, Daniel nodded. As soon as he gave silent permission, the little girl knelt beside her dog and whispered something into its fur. The dog's ears perked instantly. Then, with astonishing speed, it lowered its nose to the earth and began tracing the edges of the park, as if reading an invisible map only it could see. Daniel followed closely behind them, trying to cling to every scrap of hope. The night air was thick with tension and cold, and the fog had grown so dense that the beams of flashlights looked like fading stars. Still, the girl kept walking with a steady pace, her hand brushing the dog's fur every few steps, offering quiet reassurance. They reached the outer edge of the woods where most officers had assumed the trail ended, but the little dog paused, sniffed deeply, and suddenly pulled forward. It darted into the trees, weaving between roots and over fallen leaves as if guided by purpose alone. Daniel struggled to keep up, stumbling over broken branches, yet the girl moved with surprising agility, following her dog as if she trusted every instinct it had. The deeper they went, the darker it became, and Daniel's heartbeat began pounding so loudly he could hear it echo in his ears. The dog stopped again. This time it looked back at the little girl for confirmation and then turned sharply toward a narrow path leading downhill, one that had been nearly invisible in the dark. Daniel tried to call for backup, but the forest swallowed his voice before it could reach anyone. All he could do was push forward, hoping with everything inside him that this strange, miraculous pair truly knew where they were going. Halfway down the slope, the dog suddenly froze. It stood perfectly still, every muscle tense. Then it let out a soft, urgent sound, something between a bark and a whine. The girl gasped quietly and pointed toward a cluster of fallen branches several feet away. For a moment, Daniel couldn't breathe. He stepped closer, his hands shaking uncontrollably, and moved the branches aside with trembling fingers. And there, curled up beneath them, covered in dirt and frightened tears, was Liam. The world seemed to stop. Daniel dropped to his knees, pulling his son into his arms with a cry so raw it tore through the silence. Liam was cold but conscious, scared but alive. He kept whispering that he had slipped, fallen, and couldn't climb back up. He had tried yelling, but no one heard him. He thought he would never be found. Daniel held him tighter, overwhelmed by emotion, silently thanking every force in the universe that had guided that little girl and her brave dog into his path. The little girl stood a few steps away, hugging her dog proudly. She didn't rush forward for attention. She didn't expect praise. She simply watched with a soft, knowing smile, as if she had always believed the dog would find Liam. As officers finally arrived, stumbling down the hill, breathless and stunned, the scene spread like wildfire among them. A small girl and her loyal dog had done what trained teams could not. They had brought a child home. The girl explained later that she and her dog had been training together since he was a puppy. She had taught him everything using patience, love, and endless time. He wasn't part of a formal police unit. He wasn't registered as a service dog. He was simply her best friend, one who could sense things others often missed. Officers listened with admiration, shaking their heads in disbelief at the miracle they had witnessed. Word of the rescue spread through the town quickly. Neighbors who had been holding candles for the search embraced each other with relief. Families cried when they heard the little girl's bravery. The town's children began calling her the girl with the miracle dog. Daniel later requested that the pair be honored at a local ceremony, not out of formality, but because he wanted the world to recognize the heroes who had returned his son to him. As for the little dog, he accepted treats, belly rubs, and endless affection from everyone who met him. But whenever he looked at the girl, his eyes softened with a loyalty so pure it could break anyone's heart.